So I'm in for the two of you that were in the two previous calls, I'm in a very different mental and physical space than I was in the last two conversations. So the last two, I had just listened to the conversation. I'd been, like with Louise and Dean, been contemplating it. It was in my awareness. I had conversations with people. I was very much choice point up kind of mindset and deep inner knowing and safety within myself. And I could see through much of the illusion of what's presenting out there. Today, I woke up and I asked myself this question, which I don't every day because I don't every day. I just kind of live it. But it's like, how does the God force that I am choose to live my life today? So lo and behold, today's one of those days where wherever the God force that I am decided to take a little stroll somewhere and left me with my conditioning, with my habits, with my immensely limiting stories and thoughts. And I spent, I don't know, close to an hour, maybe just crying, just like releasing, just like, because there's so much and the pressures keep mounting, the external pressures keep mounting, and it's becoming sometimes, and this is my cycle, it's like I'll notice what's going on out there, I'll react to the thing that's going on out there, I'll process it somehow, and then I come through to another side and another way of knowing myself better, and I come through stronger, and I come through more congruent, but right now I'm in the midst of that process of processing. So, and physically I am sick with what I'm calling a Kirkland cold. So it's not even, it's generic brand. It's not even the name brand. Like, what the fuck? So I'm pretty pissed about that. So physically I'm a little bit tired and moving through a lot. And I don't invite these things, or I guess I do because I subscribe to certain stuff that comes in my inbox. But one of the things was that now, well, one, we're talking about the reality out there of the federal minister suggesting that provinces mandate forced injections. So that's one reality that I'm trying to kind of cope with. And then another reality of, well, Quebec is talking about health tax for the, uninjected. So all the while, I'm currently unemployed from my job, so therefore not earning income. So all of these things kind of in combination with my history, which makes me want to run away. So it's like the repetition of that, like, what my parents have done, what has been modeled to me, what I imagine is safe is leaving. I even said the words out loud to Jacob that I don't want to be here. There's nothing in this country left for me. And I don't know what Declan's future holds here. Whoa. Talk about repeating history. Talk about living in that habituated 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I didn't even want to be in this conversation 2 hours ago. I was just kind of in my misery, and I did not know if I could get out of it and offer you ladies something of significance to be here. And then the recognition of, the truth of the moment that I'm in, that, and then ownership of that, like that is what transforms the world. So I'm here. So one of you, two, if Susan shows up, would have read my email to the other code model coaches that we graduated with, where there's this recognition of cycles unfolding around me. So within me and around me and globally, and then, of course, beyond that. But I'm interested in the ones that are happening inside of me, inside of you, inside of the realm that we are touched by. And I wrote in there this recognition that the past, the present, and the future are deeply intertwined for me, because I can see a reality where the past impacts where I am, and words like "I don't feel safe here" come out, and then the future is like, well, do I replicate the running away from? Do I replicate the strategy that I've always known? Or do I make a choice to be congruent in the moment that I'm in and make no decisions from that place of fear whatsoever? So the reminder was, and I wrote this in the email, they will not have my fear an instant longer than I allow them to. Fear feeds their agenda. So it's one thing to know that, intellectually, and a whole nother to take ownership of that, and at the same time take ownership of what I see unfolding. And then, of course, the evidence comes. So it's this kind of back and forth of like ownership, and then fuck this, and then ownership, and then I'm creator of my life, and then, oh shit, a new thing coming up, and then I get to choose in the midst of all of this. Perpetually, continuously, da-da-da-da-da. So physically, my hips have been constricting. Like, I cannot seem to, like, release from, like, that space of my anus and then inward, like, pulling forward. I'm constricting like that. My womb hurts as if, almost like contractions, but, like, not so intense. So kind of like period pain, but also more intense than that. So that's what my womb's doing. And then my stomach is in knots, and it constantly wants to vomit. And then in that wanting to vomit, it stops at the fourth, or I'm like, freeze all of this. Lock it down. I don't want to bear the grief of everything that my body knows is true, that I witness. It's like, I give myself permission to see what I see, to know what I know, and at the same time, I almost sometimes don't give myself permission to feel it all. So I want it to stop. I want it to just constrict, and of course there's no life there. Of course I'm in a space then of like tears of catharsis rather than tears of release and expansion and reclamation. So, of course, there's a collapse at the fourth at that point. That's how I experience it. Because I know what's out there, like what's unfolding external to me is so ugly. And I'm often on fire, on absolute enraged fire. And I'm also then afraid. It's like, yes, I am the creator of my life, and yes, I create within the circumstances that are presenting. So it's both of these things at the same time. So I'm often caught in allowing the history to enter my present moment and take over the present moment. Which then pulls me back into story, which then pulls me back into the emotion of it, which then pulls me back into the what's going to happenness of it. And so, in another email, what came to my awareness and what I've been kind of allowing to be in my awareness to percolate and to do its magic is this question around how do I do conflict within myself where struggle becomes an imperative component of conflict. So if I struggle, then I did something, right? So it's like, if I'm in the midst of the struggle of it, and the harder that I struggle, the worse that I struggle, well then, maybe I did something. When in fact, ultimately, at the end of that, I feel depleted, and I feel lesser than, and I feel like, what is the fucking point? So, all these conversations come to this point of bringing me to the choice point of my life so that I stay at cause for the quality of my life, for the quality of my thoughts, for what it is that I create in the midst of all this chaos as the creator that I am, and not as the responder to the circumstances put in front of me and all the perceived blockades put in front of me. So we can take this conversation wherever is meaningful for you. I'm curious about, I'm interested in, how do we choose to live a magnificent life even in, or even if the external consciousness, the external reality pressurizes us to the point of what feels like I can no longer be here. Like that's what that feels like for me. So how do I choose to live a magnificent life even as the external pressures to comply keep mounting and keep making it seem as though I am not able to live a good life if I am not one of quote-unquote us. So how do I choose to live a magnificent life where I'm not frozen in my perceived inability to act on my own behalf, and at the same time, I am not bracing against and wanting to fight? So there are more options there than what has been, for me, the cultural conditioning of how to respond. And in that, the presupposition is that if I respond in these ways, then I have some semblance of control, which is so fucking insane, because there is no control at the strategy level, and there is no control at the external reality of another's reality. That does not fucking exist. So, where does that leave me? There's the world out there, and then there's my reality. There's the pressures out there, and there's the pressures that I create within myself. There is what a good life looks like to another, Mr. Trudeau's perception of what a good person is, and then there's my perception of what a good person is. There's the history that lives in the very cells of my being, and then there's the truth that none of it is relevant to the creation of my future. So my history is only relevant to the creation of my future in so much as I allow it to be. So in so much as I invite that, and then I respond and react and create from that. But this is a holographic universe. I create my reality. So I want to talk about how do I stay focused on what I choose to bring into expression in my reality and move in that direction. Adapting, adjusting as I go, rather than bracing or freezing or capitulating. Oh, that's the worst one of all, but it's just so not part of my reality that, I didn't even think about it. My intention is to live my life with ease and no conflict. And that starts within myself. That starts within the conflict within my own body that I keep giving into so frequently. So I'm curious about, for myself and for you, where is it that you sustain conflict within yourself? And I don't have an answer, not even for myself, but it's like, where am I fighting myself? Where have I not given up doubt and story and history and questioning and self-sabotage and doing things right and wrong and good girl? And where have I forgotten how to be in joy, how to be excited by the simplicity of my life, letting go of stories of what a future could look like, would look like. And as I'm saying this, there's a realization of there is a class of citizens that's now being openly targeted and discriminated against. And I happen to fall in that category, and so does my son, and soon so might my husband, because he's currently double vaccinated, but he does not find it congruent in himself to get a booster. So he's at an impasse of, now what? So that's the reality that the gajillions of people are going to find themselves in. And the pressures will continue out there and in my home. Because right now my husband's working, I'm not. So it's like, now what? So then it's this, how do I, as the God force that I am, and I never cease to be that, how do I, as the creator that I am, that I never cease to be that, choose to create a life of meaning in the moment moving forward, in the midst of all these pressures, in the midst of all the discrimination, blatant, open, fucking ruthless discrimination. And without the desire to run away, because look, my parents ran away and look what we came to. Ta-da! Copy paste. You would have thought communist Albania was bad. Maybe. So what does it mean to live choice point up, letting go of the illusion of control and the desire to control? Because of course control is a strategy level thought. I pulled a card for this group, and what I'd like to do is, instead of a meditation, I would like to read what this card says, if that's something you guys are interested in hearing. Yeah. Okay. So I'm working passionately with the Kali Oracle deck. I have discovered that Kali is the goddess of my soul. Like, she is that which I am here to embody and express. So for me, it is huge. It's like instantaneous. The moment I saw her picture, I did not even know who she is. Whoa, there's fucking enlivening in my body that happened. So that's the she's amazing. She's amazing. So it's this very interesting, because her ways can be perceived as ruthless, and yet at the same time, she's a representation of the Divine Mother. So her ferocity is pure love, pure compassion, pure, like I don't know, just love for life, protector of life. So this is the card that I pulled.